The road to redemption. The windshield wipers of Marcus's old Ford pickup fought a losing battle against the thickening snow, their rhythmic scraping the only sound breaking the winter silence. Highway 47 stretched empty before him, a ribbon of asphalt disappearing into the gathering dusk. He should have taken the interstate, but after losing his job at the mill 3 weeks ago, saving gas money meant taking the scenic route home from another fruitless interview. That's when he saw her. A figure stumbled into his headlight beams, a woman in white, running barefoot through the snow. Her wedding dress, once pristine, now hung in tatters around her legs, the fabric dark with mud and something that might have been blood. She clutched a pair of broken heels against her chest like a shield, her dark hair whipping wild in the wind. Marcus slammed the brakes, his truck sliding to a stop just feet from where she stood frozen in the road like a deer. Her face, ghostly pale in the headlights, was streaked with mascara and something deeper, a terror so raw it made his chest tighten. "Jesus," he whispered, throwing the truck into park and jumping out. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" She backed away, shaking her head violently. "No, no, please, I can't, he'll find me." "Hey, it's okay." Marcus raised his hands, the way he'd learned to calm spooked horses on his grandfather's farm. "I'm not going to hurt you. You're bleeding." She looked down at her feet, seemingly surprised by the dark stains spreading across the snow. I had to run. The glass, from the window." "What window? What happened?" Her eyes darted past him toward the darkening road behind them. "He said he'd kill me if I ever tried to leave. I didn't believe him until tonight. Until I saw what he did to," she choked on the words, doubling over as if physically sick. Marcus felt ice form in his stomach that had nothing to do with the weather. "Who? Your husband?" "He's not my husband. Not yet. The wedding was supposed to be tomorrow." She looked up at him, and in her eyes he saw something he recognized, the same hollow desperation he'd carried for months after Sarah's funeral. "My name is Elena. Elena Vasquez." The name hit him like a physical blow. He'd heard it on the radio that morning, buried in the local news between weather reports and traffic updates. Elena Vasquez, 26, reported missing after failing to return home from her rehearsal dinner. "Police are asking anyone with information, They're looking for you," he said quietly. "Your family." "My family sold me to him." The words came out bitter, broken. "Javier Moreno owns half the businesses in town, including my father's restaurant. When Papa couldn't pay what he owed, Javier said he'd forgive the debt if I married him. A business arrangement, he called it." Marcus knew the name. Everyone in their small town knew Javier Moreno, city councilman, pillar of the community, generous donor to local charities. The kind of man who smiled for newspaper photos and shook hands at town meetings. "I tried to go through with it," Elena continued, her voice barely audible above the wind. "For Papa, for my little brother Miguel. But tonight, at the rehearsal dinner, I overheard Javier talking to his men. About the girl who tried to leave him last year. About what they did to her." She shuddered. "I knew I had to run." Marcus thought of his own Sarah, how she died in a hospital bed while he held her hand, cancer stealing her breath by degrees. How he'd give anything for one more day with her, and here was this woman whose life was being traded like currency. "Get in the truck," he said. "I can't. You don't understand, Javier has people everywhere. If he finds out you helped me, then we better make sure he doesn't find out." Marcus opened the passenger door. "I've got a cabin up north. It's not much, but it's warm and it's safe. We can figure out what to do from there." Elena hesitated, studying his face in the dim light. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Marcus thought about how to answer that. How to explain that grief had taught him the value of second chances, that losing Sarah had shown him how precious it was when someone chose to fight for their life instead of giving up. Because everyone deserves a choice, he said finally. And because I know what it's like to feel trapped by circumstances you can't control. She climbed into the truck, and Marcus helped her wrap his emergency blanket around her shoulders. As they drove deeper into the mountains, Elena told him about her life, how she'd dreamed of being a teacher, how she'd won a scholarship to college but had to turn it down when her mother got sick. How she'd worked double shifts at the restaurant to help pay for treatments, only to watch her mother die anyway. I never got to choose anything, she said, staring out at the snow-covered pines. Not college, not my career, not who I married. I was always just, reacting to what other people needed from me. What about now? Marcus asked. What do you choose now? She was quiet for a long moment. I choose to live. Really live, not just survive. The cabin was small but warm, heated by a wood stove that Marcus kept fed while Elena cleaned and bandaged her feet. She'd changed into his old flannel shirt and a pair of jeans that were too big for her, but she looked more like herself, stronger, more determined. I can't run forever, she said as they sat by the fire. He'll find me eventually. Men like Javier always do. Marcus poked at the logs, sending sparks dancing up the chimney. My wife used to say that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for help. There are people who will listen, federal agents, witness protection programs. With what evidence? It's my word against his. A poor restaurant worker against the most powerful man in town. Then we make sure it's not just your word. Marcus pulled out his phone. I know a reporter in the city. Good guy, won't print anything without proof. But if we can get Javier to incriminate himself somehow. Elena's eyes widened. You want to go back? I want to give you a real choice. Not just running and hiding for the rest of your life, but actually being free. The plan was dangerous but simple. Elena would call Javier, tell him she was hurt and hiding, ask him to come alone. Marcus would record everything from his hiding place in the woods. If Javier said anything incriminating, they'd have their evidence. What if he kills me? Elena asked as they drove back toward town the next evening. He won't get the chance, Marcus promised. I'll be watching. And if things go wrong, I'll be ready to call for help. The abandoned gas station on Route 9 was the perfect spot, isolated but visible from the road, with plenty of cover for Marcus to hide nearby. Elena stood in the snow, looking small and vulnerable in the same torn dress she'd been wearing when he found her. Javier's black Mercedes pulled up right on time. He stepped out wearing an expensive coat, his face a mask of concern that didn't quite hide the anger in his eyes. Elena, mi amor, you had me so worried. His voice was smooth, practiced. Come, let's get you home. I can't marry you, Javier. Elena's voice shook, but she held her ground. I won't. The mask slipped then, revealing something cold and dangerous underneath. You will marry me tomorrow, or your family will lose everything. Your father will go to prison for the money he stole from me. Your brother will never see his 18th birthday. You're threatening to kill a child? Javier stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper that Marcus's phone barely caught. I'm promising it. Just like I promised that little whore Maria who thought she could leave me. They found her in the river, didn't they? Such a tragedy. It was exactly what they needed. Marcus felt sick hearing it, but he kept recording as Javier grabbed Elena's arm, as she pulled away and ran toward the road where Marcus waited with the truck running. 3 months later, Marcus sat in a courtroom watching Javier Moreno get sentenced to life in prison. The recording had been enough to reopen the Maria Santos case, to connect Javier to 2 other disappearances. Elena's courage in testifying had saved other women from suffering the same fate. Thank you, she said as they walked out of the courthouse together. For giving me a choice. What will you choose now? Marcus asked. Elena smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. I got into State University. They're letting me start classes in the fall. I want to be a